remains. V for my vendetta. I'll hold on forever, ever. Reasons I remember. Reasons I would never sell.
All right, and we're live here on the Alter Show talking about V for My Vendetta today. This is actually how the song started. You can see my project file name up here was OnlyFans. I don't really know why that was, but and this was the melody.
V for my vendetta, let us see my summer feta.
And actually that part was really the only part from this version that made it into the other version, and so we'll kind of look at some of the other things. But basically what I do is, this is how a sketch starts. I just lay down a bunch of mumble melodies and I kind of structure them and thinking what might be the verse or the bridge or the pre-chorus, etc. So in this version, I started to come up with a little bit more of the lyrical texture, still not any of the final words, and I think it's still even in a different key, but this is starting to sound more like the alternative version of V for Vendetta, if you've heard that.
Keep myself together, I'll hold on forever, ever. V for the vendetta. Need a reason, people better, we belong together. We held on forever, ever. V for the vendetta. See the people equal ever.
Yeah, still really rough. Still actually a mumble to me at this point. I haven't really written anything yet. I've just put down better words that are not just literally mumbles. I had sent those mumbles, literally a giant track of mumble melodies, to my buddy Nick, and I'm going to post his stuff. Bow, that's him right there. You can go check out his music. He's an amazing artist as well. He helped me arrange these melodies in a structure and suggested which one should be the verse and the pre-chorus, and I loved his arrangement so much. I actually stuck with it 100%, and it's still actually not the final version of the production, but I used this version to get the first iteration of the song down in full structure.
This isn't trendy funny if you're not so lucky. Why you roll dice, a chance to
version still
change. How you
slaps.
choose mine, decide you blame. I know why, but can't explain. Time goes by, plan remains.
Okay, cool. So here's where it's going to start sounding like the version that hopefully you know and love. And unfortunately, the vocal files for those vocals are missing, so they're not in here. But this was the demo we used to kind of build it up. Here it is. This sound. This is what was really giving the energy to the new version for me when it hit. Just really kind of gave it this nice sound. I guess we can just start diving in on some production stuff. So this is Shreddage. I use this a lot. We're getting those little bends from these guys in here, drawing the pitch automation. All right, moving on. On the main vocal, I have a breath control that's taking away the my bad breathing techniques and make me sound like a better singer than I am. And then I have this Sheps 73, just gives it a little bit of analog warmth. And then I have this. This is very crucial, honestly. These two, if you put me in an island, a desert island, and I somehow still had a laptop and power and plugins, this would be one of them, because the gate on this specific gate is very sensitive to vocals. And what I mean by that is you can set this threshold. We'll watch it here in action.
I have a confession, listen.
So every time it drops below this line, it's cutting out any of that room noise, and I don't know if you can even hear it in here right now, but my MacBook fan is just blazing because I don't have that new M1 chip yet, so it's definitely got that old just fat fan in there cooking. I could cook eggs on it, I bet. And you can kind of hear that in here if the gate isn't on, since I record pretty much like this. And it just sounds very good with vocals. I find other gates will work, but that one, there's a special magic to it. Then we go into Nectar 2, and this is my main pitch correction choice. He uses auto-tune? Yeah, I do. Sorry. And sometimes I'll do an EQ, but in this case, I think I was just using the Sheps for that to kind of cut out the low mid. So you kind of want to think about it. You're cleaning up all the garbage that you do not want to be tuned first, and then you tune it. So you have the most dry signal minus the garbage, then you tune it. So it's tuned. And then I'm running it through a little bit of the overdrive in here. This is kind of just to taste. I have another gate to really just make sure that anything that's not the vocal
I have a confession, listen.
is cut. Get it out of there. I don't
I
want it.
have this obsession with being different.
So now we can start to compress it and saturate it and equalize it and do all the other stuff that makes it sound really pro. Then we do MJUC. So this one's really nice. It's actually a really affordable plugin. I think it's like $25. Don't quote me. It sounds good on masters. It sounds good on vocals. It sounds good on guitars. I really recommend it. I'm not getting paid to say this. I wish I was. That'd be cool. My friend Binks, boom, his Spotify's right there. Wop wop. He helped me with the vocal chain, and he suggested that I use this compressor to do this specific action, which is basically you're letting the lows through here. So this is allowing, if we were to look at this EQ to kind of make sense of this, this knob right here is allowing everything below 200. So essentially like from here, from there all the way down to here is coming through without being compressed. And the compressor is only acting upon things above 200. So everything in this purple range is what it's compressing. And so what that is doing is allowing the natural lows that you would hear right now, lows through, but then it's not allowing like all that nonsense high through without being crushed. So this compressor right now, when you're going to see it act on the vocal, is just acting on the highs, not the lows.
I have a confession, listen.
And it's also in dry wet mode, so it's just parallel compressed in. So I'm hitting it pretty hard, but then blending it back in. And what that does is essentially smooths out the top end in a really, really, really pretty industry type way. And then what we do with that low end energy, since it came through uninhibited, we compress that with a multiband compressor separately to make sure that it is still tamed in the way that we want, but we do that with a digital EQ instead of this analog sounding one, and just to actually literally sterilely control it. We're not trying to add color or anything. We're just trying to achieve a certain dynamic range.
I have a confession, listen.
And again, now that I let that EQ be different, this might be different too. Let's try.
I have a confession, listen.
That's better.
I have this obsession with being different.
This final equalizer is just to make sure that anything that was added in the process, whether that be saturation or whatever, just doesn't make it through to the final. And then a de-esser. Essentially, the very end is a limiter, and I limit to make sure that it's literally just, this is the dynamic, this is where it will stay, and it's not going to move in the mix when I adjust it, and where I set it, it's going to pretty much just sound that level the whole time. And then in the backing tracks, what I'll do is often EQ them subtly different. I'll try even recording the mic at a different angle sometimes, just to give it a different sound. That the goal with the backing tracks isn't for them to be actually as clean as the lead. In my philosophy and in my opinion, I want them to sound separate. In the backgrounds, I love to throw more saturation, more EQ, more aggressive moves to kind of make them sit together. So here we are in the final master of For My Vendetta, with everything that we kind of discussed coming into play in this one version. And I think that is something specifically interesting to note about my process. There are actually elements from almost every single one of those versions somewhere in here, even if it's just for a split second of ear candy or some little whoosh or an impact or a bass sound or whatever. All that iteration in this type of track, at least, does come to be used. And I think that's what kind of creates this texture to things, because there is such a unique, individualistic, playful nature to each element that when it comes together at the end like this, God, that sounded so arrogant. Ooh, I'm so unique. Okay, let's just play it. Shut up. Ooh. Let's fold all these out so you guys can see all the beautiful layers upon layers. Let's kind of dive in on some of these individual things and take a look. So, we got a kick here. Let's take a look at it. It is this kick, and I got this kick off Splice, and I just liked how it sounded. It was working, and then I have my snare here. Let's take a little peek. Same kind of thing. Drum bus is on there. It's that snare. It's that snare. And that. Contrast. Layer 1. Layer 2. Layer 1. And whatever this is. What is it? Okay. Yeah, I'm just kind of into those shakers. This one is the drum pattern from the old Vendetta song that we were listening to earlier, and I brought it in with that and kind of messed with it, added a bunch of effects. And we got this. Kind of has that hi-hat trap sound in the background. A lot of that's coming from this. I really like that. It actually did add a lot, I felt like. I'll solo that again so you can hear it. It's just cool. I don't know. It's like a different sound. It's kind of muddier. It makes it not as clean, but there's just something about how it makes the movement of the song feel to me. So those are the drums. I also added a bunch of random kind of like little bells and stuff over here to give it even more. And I mixed those outside of the beat bus because I wanted the treatment on the compression and stuff to be different. I wanted these to have more dynamic range, not be quite as glued together, I guess. So this is the main guitar. And we're using archtop for this. Oh no, I wasn't. I gotta save this then, because clearly this is a patch worth saving. This is important to do. I actually am going to leave this part in here so you can see it. This is super crucial. If you like a patch or something that works well in a song, then you should save it. That reverb's beautiful. Shout out to Valhalla, man. You don't even have to pay me. I love you so much. Changed my life. And then the reverb, like, so yes, absolutely. That all day. And then I'm just dipping this to get rid of these annoying frequencies. Cutting out the lows. All together, the beat is then processed with some compression. Again, MJUC with the parallel mode, so it's just blended in like 30%. And then all this low end's allowed to come through all the way below 300. We got it on clean. We're just dipping it really just a little bit too. It's more mastering compression. This is adding some brightness. And then this is just kind of doing some dynamic control for the harshness and the mud. But then I took this and I resampled it, pitched it up 12, put it in beats mode. This is like one of my favorite things to do. This guy, beats mode, pitched it up 12, put it on 8th notes. And this means that it's going to create a transient and then stop. These are different other modes to adjust. And what it does, it creates that pulsing. So you have, and I'm running that through this amp. But here's what it sounds like without it. So with it, ooh, so aggressive, right? Then you layer that back with the sub and it's just like, ooh, tell him. So let's just maybe solo out the vocals here.
Listen, I have this obsession with being different.
I love my background vocals a lot. I do a lot of little ear candy things. So those are just kind of processed, you know, in a boxy sort of way. I do a lot of post-processing on things and a lot of production work that compositionally works that might not work in a traditional songwriting way, and adding this many dubs and layers into the background kind of gives it that ethereal sense, and it allows me to kind of cheat and just, you know, half sing some of the things as long as the notes are good and the feeling's there, throw some auto-tune on it or whatever, and just create more of a lush texture but turn it way down. Yeah, so those are the vocals kind of vibes. We're just going to kind of put this out, and hopefully you all watching and listening can give me some feedback in the comments below, telling me what types of questions you want me to answer in future songs, or what was helpful from this, or what I just completely stepped over and made you mad that I didn't cover. All of that, just tell me, and we're going to get better at this. We're going to make more of them. But this is V for Vendetta. If you want to support, check out the music video, subscribe, do all that stuff. Message me on Instagram, find me on TikTok, Twitter, all those things. Let's do it. Peace.